It's the day after the laying of the screed and it's ready for tiling. First, let's look at some of the DTA tools to be used. Very much the hero of the day, the DTA tile cutter. The tiler's notched trowel. The DTA straight edge and spirit level. The DTA glue mixer and rechargeable drill. The chalk string line. Tile spacers. The tile nippers. The DTA square nose splash trowel. For comfort and safety, the essential knee pads, a marking pencil, the DTA retractable steel tape. The tiles will be laid in a diamond pattern with a neat border. Incorporated in this border will be two DTA trims, one to accommodate vinyl tiles and the other to accommodate a polished timber floor. We'll discuss these later. Right now the DTA tile cutter is being adjusted to cut the border tiles from whole tiles. The tile sits on the pre-adjusted bed, is scored once with a push of the handle, and no, you don't need to hit it twice, it cuts the tile to the perfect size. The other half is turned around to preserve the manufacturer's edge, and the process is repeated, providing two edge tiles from each whole tile with a minimum of waste. The whole tile is placed on the bed, scored, one gentle hit, he's getting used to it now, second half turned to preserve the manufacturer's edge, and the waste trimmed. Since this is a test bed and not an actual floor, a short area is measured off to represent the area to be covered in vinyl. It's marked using the pencil and straight edge, and that's where the trim will eventually sit. The area to accommodate the first strip of the border is then marked out, followed by the second strip. The DTA trim is then temporarily placed on the pencil line and the timber floor trim is placed at right angles. Here you can see that the border tile sits inside the trim perfectly. The proposed vinyl floor will be laid on the screed at point A and the timber floor alongside the screed at point B. The chalk string line is now used to mark out the border. It's carefully anchored at the pencil marks, plucked and released. The result is a perfect coloured chalk line. The tile adhesive used on this job is a dry powder that you mix with water. Easy job with the DTA mixing blade and the rechargeable drill. But it can be mixed by hand with a little effort and a sturdy DTA square nose trowel. You should check with your supplier for the type and quantity of adhesive you need. The notch trowel is available in a range of notch sizes, so you should also check with your supplier to ensure that you have the right one for your specific job. Properly mixed, the adhesive is a smooth, thick paste which is spread inside the border with the straight edge of the notch trowel like this, ensuring a bond occurs with the floor surface. The trim, which was removed to facilitate the spreading of adhesive, is then pressed back into place along the pencil line. More adhesive is added and pressed into the trim all the way along. The trowel is then reversed and the notched edge is used to create this combed effect along the entire length of the border. The border tiles are then simply pressed into place inside the trim, leaving a little gap between each tile. The timber floor edge trim is then treated in exactly the same way, with the tiles pressed in, leaving that little gap between each tile. The excess adhesive should be cleaned up as you work, because it's very hard to get off once it dries. The border tiles are laid all the way to the end, but in this case the space left will not accommodate a whole tile. So it's measured, the DTA tile cutter adjusted to size, and the perfect size cut and placed. The DTA straight edge will ensure that your border is straight, and don't forget to clean up that adhesive before it has a chance to set. To ensure that the gaps between the tiles are uniform, ask your supplier about the correct DTA spacer size for your specific job. Inserting DTA spacers will ensure that an identical gap is maintained. And on two sides at least, that's how the borders, and in this case the DTA trims, are laid. The DTA tile cutter is now adjusted to accommodate the cutting of triangles. The square tiles are halved diagonally to produce two triangles each. Sometimes a tile will not break cleanly. This can usually be rectified with the use of a tile nipper or a tile file. The first part of the design, consisting of 4 triangles and 2 squares, is laid in temporarily to check its positioning. And pencil marks are made on the border. The distance is then measured from the tip of the triangle to these marks, they should, of course, be identical. The pencil line is drawn in and the tiles removed. Adhesive is then added spread evenly, and then combed. Excess adhesive is trimmed and the tiles reintroduced and pressed lightly into place. A little channel is sometimes made with the trowel to accommodate the edge of the tile cleanly and prevent the adhesive from travelling up the gap when the tile is bedded in. Again, spacers are added to check the gaps, and the first part of the diamond pattern is laid. Measurements are taken to accommodate another 2 rows of tiles and the chalk line used again. A damp sponge is used to remove dust and loose particles. More adhesive is spread to an even thickness and combed as before. And the tiles bedded in. Two hands are placed on the tile, and with gentle pressure applied, the tile is moved slightly to bed it in. This should spread the combed adhesive underneath the tile without squeezing it out, and the result underneath is a well-bedded tile with no pressure points, the cause of tile cracking. The 2 triangles at each end of the double row complete the next stage of the diamond pattern. The long straight edge is used to check for true. And once again the triangle is measured and proves to be correct. And that's just one very fine way to lay floor tiles.